The following program is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. Kidding. Alright, so on our previous episode of the Orchid Chronicles, I basically highlighted the orchids and their tissue culture. And so now I'm going to actually kind of show how I do my glove box. So I have these Cypripedium reginae seeds that have been sitting in this bleach solution for about a half hour, so it's pretty much time to get them going. You can see the seeds are sitting in the bottom of the bleach. They've been purged of air, and they are now in a solution of bleach to remove germination inhibitors. This is very satisfying to do. So I'm going to put all of my stuff in my glove box. I have it open. I generally don't leave it open like this for extended periods of time. Another thing is I use this adjustable chair. Sometimes I will do things looking up over it, and sometimes I find it's easier to do it from this angle. And this chair will allow me to do it both ways while sitting. I'm not a very sedentary person, but I find I have a steadier hand if I do sit down. I have sterile water, so I'm going to put a thing of sterile water in. I have my ethanol bowl that's going to go in here. I have my external ethanol sprayer and my internal ethanol sprayer. I have my reginae media. I can elaborate more on what the different media is later. I have some paper toweling in there. You'll see how I use that later. More sterile water. So reginae media is going to go in. Everything's just going to sit in this 20% bleach for just a sec. I have all of my stuff, right? Let's see. Ethanol, my tools are down in there. Let me just make sure there are no seeds left in here from the Californicum, whatever. Oops, I really should. Oh, so before I put this in there, I make sure that I purge it of its air. So that the entire inside of that is covered in ethanol. And what I'm going to do before I put this in is, of course, I'm going to spray down everything with the ethanol, with the outside ethanol. You'll see why I have outdoor and indoor ethanol. Make sure that everything, even inside of these. Now, I know that there's bleach, and now I'm using ethanol, and I know that when you mix a primary alcohol and a bleach, you get chloroform. I don't have a sense of smell, so I don't know if there's a chloroform smell. I certainly don't recommend sticking your head in this, but I think for what I'm doing, it's fine. I'm going to lift this up and spray the bottom before I put it down in there. And I'm also going to spray down these sides. Generally, if the ethanol doesn't dry up fully before you seal this, you're pretty much in the clear. Just a second, putting the phone down for a second. Ah, la la la. When I was your age, they hadn't invented ethanol yet. Okay, where the heck did I put the lid? Okay, so now that I have everything in there, just double checking I have my tools, my media, my sterile water, the seeds themselves, very important, the ethanol itself. Okay, so then I seal the glove box, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, alright, and I change this out every now and then. I also will change out the ethanol in the bowl twice a month. I will change out the ethanol in the spray bottles at least once a month, and I'll keep them away from direct sunlight. I'll replace this solution once a month if I'm using the glove box heavily. I'm going to spray this just so that I make sure that's nice and sterile. And then I'm going to wrap the edges of the glove box lid with the aluminum. This will prevent any air that might be reaching the seams of the glove box lid from actually getting into the glove box. I got that guy on. I'm going to put the others on. Get this show on the road here. Let me get everybody all set. Um, oh, I can quickly show you guys the Californicum. So I have the Californicum media with the seeds on it now. You can see I got some of the seeds on the side, but if you look closely in there, the media is heavily seeded enough with Californicum, particularly on this jar or flask, if you will. That will produce plenty of protocorms when they are actually ready to produce. One second. You can see inside the glove box. Okay. So, the next step, I need to make sure the chair is all the way up, is I go in and I stick my hands into the gloves. Okay. So, what I want to do now is I want to take the spray bottle right here, and I want to spray as much as I can on the inside of the box so that any airborne contaminants that got in between the time that I sprayed the outdoor ethanol and the time I closed the box will be caught and killed by a really vigorous spray of ethanol. And you can probably imagine the inside of the glove box is very, very wet, and there is a lot of vapor that is released. I'm also going to take these gloves, soak them in ethanol, and then I'm going to rub around the rims of these little cups that I've cut and made into the sleeve holders, because anywhere where there's a crevice or a ledge or anything, you are bound to get bacteria or mold spores coming in. So the more I cover my bases, the better. I'm also going to dip my fingers in the glove box and just make sure that the outside of the ethanol bottle here is fully wiped. We should be ready to roll now. Now what I also will do is I will continually wipe the sides of the lid of the glove box just so that I have a better view inside. And give me one quick second. Now the other advantage to this is that because I've sealed this off and I've sterilized the inside, I can walk away from this because the gloves are sealed. And so as long as the inside stays uninterrupted and closed, you're going to have good success keeping the inside of this sterile. See? I am just going to see if I can rig up something so that I hold the phone a little bit higher up so it's easier for you guys to see what's going on here. Bear with me for one sec. Alright, let's see how that works. I don't know how well it's going to work, but what I'm going to do in just a few is actually go and change the view. So, what I have done is I've gotten everything in here cleaned. And so now what I want to do is I want to take my little container that has my seeds in it, and I want to just kind of get some ethanol over the edges and everything so that it's nice and sterile. And then what I'm going to do is grab my sterile water and do basically the same thing. You can also do this, just kind of roll in the ethanol. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my, I'm going to tilt and roll my culture jars into the bleach so that I can get the edges of the container nice and sterile. I've read varying reports about whether bleach or ethanol are better at killing spores and dormant things, and you know, it's kind of a mixed review sort of thing right at this point. ethanol evaporates, so you may have an easier time using it, but it's also more expensive than bleach. It really depends. Another thing I'm going to do, actually before I get to that, I'm going to actually take my, are we seeing this? Yes. I'm going to take my thing of seeds in bleach water, and I'm going to very gently twist off, well, this is a pull lid, but if you twist it enough, it'll slightly come out slightly. I just don't want it to go all over. I'll remove the lid to that, and then I'm going to take the pipette out of the ethanol, squirt out any ethanol that's in the pipette, give it a sec, and then I'm going to just kind of siphon off the majority of the bleach, and I'm just going to put it into the bleach well near me on my in my glove box, just because of the fact that it's fine to do that. And I'm just watching to make sure I'm not really siphoning off any seeds, but I'm getting rid of as much of the bleach solution as I can. And then what I'll do is I will open up my sterile water. I pressure cooked the water for an hour, so it should be sterile. There we go. And then what I'll do is, I don't know if, oh, I'm getting this to some degree. It's a little bit foggy, but that's all right. I will take the pipette once again, siphon off some of the sterile water and kind of stir up the seeds with it, and then suction the seeds into the sterile water so that they can be quickly rinsed. I do not know if the amount of residual bleach on the seeds is enough to cause long-term harm, but it also helps to distribute the seeds along the media surface if I add them to sterile water. Alright, so now that that part is done, we can, I'm going to remove the tissue culture vessels from the bleach they've been sitting in, and I'm going to spray them a little bit with the ethanol before I open them. Now when I pressure cook these, what happens often is the lids will get kind of suctioned on, so you have to kind of unscrew them kind of roughly in like a really tough manner in order to get the seal to break. And then once you do that, you're set. So what I'll generally do is I'll break the seal first, and then I'll worry about opening them all later. I like to break the seal just so that I don't have to hold one thing in one hand and really like force a lid open. I've already done that. This is kind of stuff you figure out over time. So I've gotten this. And now that I've gotten all of my things removed from the bleach and sprayed down with ethanol so that we kill off any contaminants that hit the outsides of these containers, I can unscrew them slightly. I'm not going to unscrew them all the way just yet, just because I don't want to I don't want them to be open for longer than they really have to be. Okay, so I've gotten them all unscrewed. So now I'm going to change the view of the camera. This might actually be better for my viewers just because it'll be easier to see, and I'm apologizing in advance if you're having a hard time hearing me. Alright, now I just have to figure out a way to hold this 1 second again. Alright, that's about as good as it's going to get. I apologize. But why don't we get onto the actual content here? Alright, so we have these jars, and we have the seeds right here. So what I'm going to do is reach behind all this, if I can, and I have my pipette here, and I can see all the seeds in here. Another cool trick, hang on, I don't want to lose all the seeds, and I want to get my hand into the glove. Okay, so it's cool. Cypripedium seeds seem to change color when you add bleach to them, which is probably a sign of a chemical change, which is, fine. But if you want to get everything in the center, stir it up a little bit, and then all the seeds will kind of settle towards the center, especially when you don't have a whole lot of seeds. So what I'm going to do once these seeds settle is I'm going to get the lid off of one of my containers in here. Just keep in mind that I don't have full range of motion because I am kind of stuck with my hands in a rigid plastic container. See how the seeds are kind of all gathered as one? And I'm going to start siphoning them off. Oh, some of the inner parts of these lids came undone. And I'm going to kind of squirt that into there. And what I'll do is I'll do all three first, and then I'll go back for seconds, if you will. When I suction off the extra water, or not suction off, absorb off the extra water, I do lose some of the seeds, but there are still plenty left over just because of how many seeds there are in a seemingly minute amount of Cypripedium or any other orchid seed. Alright, got that guy. It sometimes helps to just keep dipping the pipette back in the ethanol. You don't want to have too much ethanol in your flask, especially, or flask or jar, whatever you're using, especially since if it's a sealed container, the ethanol won't evaporate off. And you also want to be careful not to like power wash the media with the seeds. I'm kind of gently dribbling it. I'm not holding it too close to the media, and I'm not squirting with all my might, because you can actually cause divots in the media and cause it to like chunk away and be really gross looking, and that's not good for the orchid seeds. You want to keep the consistency of the media. Now you'll see that there is a lot of water, but that's okay. We're going to get rid of that after this. I just find the water is a really good tool, or not really a tool. Well, you can use the water as a tool. I find the water is really good for just getting the seeds to sit evenly on the media. Because these seeds have been treated, they will already sink to the bottom of that water. So if you really want to just suction it off, I usually just use absorbent material like cotton balls, although I accidentally spilled my cotton balls into the bleach. But anyway, cotton balls or paper toweling or anything. And again, you're not going to get 100%. That's just the nature of what we're doing. We're kind of gambling here. Okay. So I'm just going to set that aside. There are still some seeds in there. I'm not going to get everything out of there, obviously, but I am content with the number that I have gotten out of there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the view of the camera once more. Oh, that's more like it. Okay. So now I'm kind of looking at it from above again. And I have a fairly long pair, well, not a long, but a decently long pair of tweezers in the bleach right now. So I'm going to remove them from the bleach, and I'll just get them in the ethanol to react away the extra bleach. That's really good for rinsing the bleach off. Again, just kind of double wiping this. And so then I have this sterile paper towels that I threw through the pressure cooker. And I'm going to remove the lid on this. Very carefully. I've been through this process several times with this already. And I'm just going to make sure that the rim is sterile. Maybe I'll dip the lid in the bleach quickly, whatever. And then I'm going to get some of this out of there. We got some paper toweling. I really want to be careful with my paper towel supply. But anyway, my gloves are a little bit wet, but that should be fine. I am going to rip off a sizable portion of this material. Whoops. Okay. I'm going to put that back for a sec. And then I'm going to take my tweezers. I'm going to pick them up, and I'm going to just kind of tap them off a little bit. I'm going to hold my paper towel here, and then I'm going to get one of my jars open, and I'm just going to kind of dip this in. If you can help it, try not to have it over the entire surface of the media. So that if you do take up some of the seeds, you're not taking them from everywhere over the surface of the media. It stays fairly localized. Although it does seem like the Reginae are a little bit clingier to the media than the Californica more. Again, if you look at the Californica media, it still has plenty of seeds, just not the obnoxious overcount that I had put on the media. I'm only doing 3 jars for each of these two species. which, obviously if I really wanted to get a large number of these things to grow, I would spread them very thinly over a great number of containers. I'm kind of just doing this for fun, see how it works, and maybe if I really enjoy this process and it goes really well for me, I will do more of it over a longer term. But right now, and then I'm going to close this. And so once I have these things closed, once everything is closed, I am comfortable opening the thing back up. But I still have two other jars that I need to relieve of the excess water. So what I'm going to do is just the same process. And I'm trying to be careful not to get ethanol into the jar. For obvious reasons, ethanol is mildly toxic. I have tried to clean orchid seeds with ethanol, and that didn't work out for me. In one case, I had contamination. In another case, germination just didn't occur. So, and I'm not too worried because these are sterile paper towels again. I don't think I'm going to have any problems with these getting contaminated, but I will find out in the coming months when I go to check on them. And if they are overgrown with mold, then I'll know that it didn't work. If they are growing full of young orchids, then I'll know it did work. And you don't have to get every last bit of water, just as much as you possibly can, just so that you're sure that you don't have too much extra moisture residing in there. That one is done, so I'll set it aside. And then I have one more to do. I might as well just use this entire last bit of this paper towel wad. Obviously, since I'm doing, some tissue culture stuff right now, it helps that I have a good supply. But if I'm finished for the night, then I can just pressure cook some more paper toweling and stuff and don't have to worry too much about wasting the paper towel that I have here. I don't like wasting things, but I'm not going to be bent out of shape if I use more paper toweling than I need for this. You can just see, let me see if I can get this lined up with the camera. You can just see I'm just kind of dabbing off that extra moisture so that we have a nice suitable environment for the seeds to germinate onto. They are very small and we don't want too much water residing on the surface of them. Don't worry, nothing got damaged. I just accidentally punched the roof of the glove box. It happens. Happens to the best of us. It's all gonna be okay. Alright. I will wrestle with the paper toweling later. There we go. Okay, so I have gotten the, let me just dunk my tweezers quickly and then get the last of the that's better. See, I got the extra moisture away and now I can put that back in there. I can make sure I close everything that I need to have closed back up nice and tight until it can't twist anymore. Let me just get my lid for my sterile paper towel. Get that back on. These miniature mason jars are very inexpensive at Walmart. By the way, when I mentioned that you can get a lot of stuff at Job Lot, Costco and Kmart and places that are classified as discount stores are basically what Job Lot qualifies as for people who are not in New England. So let me just now walk you through how this has gone down. Then you just remove all this. I'm going to replace that before I do the pubescence. And so I've got my media that has the seeds. You can see the seeds sitting on the surface. There is still some residual moisture, but I don't think it's going to cause me that many problems. Here's the next one. If you tilt it, there's really not any pooling that occurs, which is a good sign. I'm also going to make sure that I keep these separate from the Californicum for right now, just because the moist environment inside here may cause these to dislodge, and I don't want to confuse anybody. So what I would do then is I would make sure that anything that doesn't need to be in here is removed. If it has to be thrown away, it's thrown away, and I kind of just can reset the glove box for the next usage. So that's basically the glove box and how you do things aseptically with the glove box. Where did my third thing of sterile water go? Anyway, thank you for tuning in.